Hello everybody, welcome back to Unique Arts. I am Costco Picasso. Today we're going to be doing a quick book review, I guess you could call it. I'm going to try not to spoil it, to be honest though. It's really short. I would highly recommend you guys read it yourself. It's 94 pages, so I'm going to try not to talk too much about it, but this book is Vathek, or Vathek. I've been calling it Vathek the whole time I've been reading it, but I've heard people call it Vathek. I'm actually not 100% sure. It's one of the original titles for it was The History of the Caliph Vathek. So it's supposed to be a history of a character. Obviously, this is a fictional character, though. Of course, we do stuff like that where we try to play it as this person was historical, but it's completely fictional. This has happened before. This was written by William Beckford, though, so this is someone I'm actually loosely acquainted with, and is what led me to read this book. This is a Gothic novel, so it's following that Gothic literature tradition. He's trying to cash in on it. He was also an architect. That's actually why I'm aware of him. Beckford's Folly of the Fonthill Abbey is only a portion of it stands, but it's a pretty romantic romantic revival, like Gothic revival abbey that he built in Wiltshire, commonly known as England's wealthiest peasant. He's a very interesting character. There's some scandal that is around him in his life. You can look that up on your own. Not really going to go into detail with that. But he was very learned, very, very wealthy, had an extensive art collection, and he wrote. Now, this is only 94 pages. This is very short. But it is a Gothic novel, but it's called Oriental Gothic. So he's trying to blend the Gothic literature, which is very popular at this time, of course, not relatively too long after The Castle of Otranto, which is considered the first Gothic novel, but also Orientalism, which is a big deal in the Romantic era in Western Europe. We really like these foreign things, these foreign aesthetics. We'll see it in architecture and art, but also he's trying to add it to literature. And when I say Oriental to specify, I think Oriental might be considered a bad word to this day and age. I'm actually not sure. But Orient just means the East. And in more recent history, when we think of the Orient, we mostly think of the Far East, like China and stuff like that. But back in the 19th century and stuff, when we talked about the Orient, in many ways, we were just talking about the East in general, but more specifically the Near East, the Middle East. And so that's when we say Oriental. When I say Oriental in this regards, it's a Middle Eastern Gothic novel. We're blending the Arabian Nights essentially with the Castle of Otranto. It's actually a pretty interesting read, pretty romantic literature as you may imagine, and it's entertaining. I enjoy it. Pretty quick, perhaps a bit much at times, and my favorite part was the very end when he finally gets, to the end of the tale. But it's kind of Faustian in a way, and kind of like Faust, kind of Miltonian, like Paradise Lost in some ways as well. So if you're interested in those, you might enjoy this. Again, it's a pretty quick read, so I would recommend it if you have a little bit of interest. Perhaps just read it. It shouldn't take you too long. I think there's even an audio version of it on YouTube. It's like 3 hours or something like that. So it's not long, even if you want to listen to it. But the main character is the title of the book, Vathek. He is the Caliph, and he's very wealthy. And there's some other themes that are kind of interesting. Like his mother is essentially a witch, but she and one of his advisors essentially, and honestly one of the things that leads to his doom, to his fall from grace in many ways. And her stuff is, it doesn't really specifically say, but this is the Middle East. She's obviously not a practitioner of Islam, while he kind of is. It's kind of, he's not not a very good firm believing Muslim if he is one, and she certainly isn't and doesn't really claim to be either. She actually seems to be, there's hints essentially, it sounds like she may be some practitioner of Zoroastrianism. With her, she uses fire for lots of her worship, which we understand for Zoroastrianism, which I'm not as acquainted with Zoroastrianism as perhaps I would like to be. And it's not a really dominant religion this day and age, but it was one of the very dominant religions in the Middle East before, and specifically in like Persia, before the rise of Islam. But regardless, some interesting elements with that, along with just the other things I mentioned. So this is a little disjointed. I'm sorry about that. But I'm mostly, again, I'm not trying to do spoilers or whatever. If someone has read it and would like to discuss more with me in the comments, that'd be appreciated. Um, but either way, I just mostly wanted to recommend it, and hopefully some of the things I mentioned have piqued someone's interest. So highly recommend, and I'll see you guys next time. Please feel free to like and subscribe.